Hello everyone and welcome back to Shock Talk. And per the usual these days, we have some very special guests with us. We have some folks from our Mooresville office, which is basically our motorsports division over in North Carolina. We have Aaron and Keith with us. Welcome to Shock Talk.
I'm excited. This is awesome.
It's good to have you guys. How's the weather in Mooresville these days?
Up and down.
You don't want to know. I promise
How fast is the grass growing?
Which hour is it? Because it could be 30-some degrees, and then the next day it's 75.
So this time of year is pretty mayhemish over there. It's weather mayhem.
Yeah. We're starting
close.
to break.
Yeah. We're a week away, probably. A week or two away from the good weather.
The humid grass grows 2 inches a day weather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust me, nothing like this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
So you're enjoying San Diego?
I'm enjoying San Diego.
Yeah.
But for the first time I've ever seen rain in California was Monday.
Oh, nice.
And I've
Because
been
it never
here-
rains here. You've heard
I
the
know.
song, right?
Yeah, it was different. I thought I was back
Different,
home.
rare.
You were panicking at first.
I was. I didn't know what to do.
You know, I can't drive in the rain here. I'm wondering what's going to
I was
happen.
wondering, can anyone else drive?
No, we can't. Yeah, we'll slide into you and cause all kinds of wrecks. And all
Well,
kinds of
I'm
good
really proud that Aaron comes over here to San Diego, and then the first thing he wants is tacos.
stuff. Yeah?
From a
That's
taco
all I've
shop.
had is tacos.
You're tacoed out already?
No.
Okay.
I could have it.
Because we're having tacos for lunch, and we already said we're going to talk
We
about
cannot
lunch.
be over taco.
Yeah,
That's-
okay.
Yeah.
So to get started, let's give you each a little bit of time to explain your background and how long you've been with BILSTEIN. We'll start with you, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
And so how you came to BILSTEIN and what background you had before that.
Yeah, I came over October 1st, 17.
Okay.
So going into 17, 18, I moved the family down from Michigan. We were over on the Lake Michigan side, Grand Rapids area. Been in the industry since, I graduated in 98. Started in the industry probably 2001. Moved down to Texas, worked at Hoosier Tire, Southwest, Hawk Performance Brakes, ran their motorsports division for a while. Integra Shocks, ran that
Nice.
sales and marketing for Integra. That was Kaiser Manufacturing, then also Sweet Manufacturing, rack and pinions. And then, in the middle of there, I've raced and built chassis myself. Had a little fabricating shop. And then, we took that leap of faith to go to Race City, USA.
Fully immersed in motorsports pretty much since
My
high
entire
school.
life.
Yeah.
I've been racing since
Yeah.
I was 4.
Yeah.
I started racing as a kid. So
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I know. That is. I went to school for computer programming.
Right.
I don't know why.
Ditched it.
No, I haven't done anything since.
Yeah.
So
Now you're the motorsports director for BILSTEIN
That's it.
US. So that's the way it should be, right?
That's it.
A lot of kids go to school for stuff they really don't want to do and figure that out halfway through school and $100,000 late.
yeah, and you're supposed to. Back in my generation, you had to. Like
Yeah.
it was the thing to do. Like,
Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah.
Now
Parents
it's a
didn't
little
think
different.
you were a good kid unless you signed up for college,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Keith. Now I've known you for 20-some years, so no surprises
21
here.
years.
Yeah. But 22, I believe. Or maybe even more. It's been a long time.
I got my plaque of
But you know
20
what?
years this past year.
Yeah.
So,
In all those years, I don't think haven't heard or don't remember how you came to BILSTEIN and your background previous to that.
Yeah, it's probably been in a post-SEMA discussion or something
Right.
somewhere at a restaurant, everything. But I came into BILSTEIN 20-some years ago. Before that, I worked with Radiator and Oil Cooler Company that was
right,
based out
yeah.
of California as well. It's called Fluidine. That was kind of back during the height of the Fast and the Furious days and stuff
Nice.
like that. So, I was able to be involved in that side of the industry plus the motorsport side. That's what we did out there in North Carolina. Was more. It's a whole lot like BILSTEIN the way it is right now. It's a lot of motorsports out there. But before that, I worked with a Craftsman truck team for a couple of years, and then before that, while I was also going to school in college at Virginia Tech, I worked at a couple of racetracks that did a PR marketing for. One was a dirt track up in Natural Bridge, and one was up in at New River Valley Speedway. So asphalt and dirt track. So I got a little bit of connection with that now with BILSTEIN as well, doing the motorsports side of things here.
Who drove the truck?
Stacy Compton.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a name you haven't heard for a while.
I know it. Yeah, he's he got up into the Cup side of things for a little bit, and then I think he bounced back down into the trucks for a little while, and I think he's right now enjoying the retirement side of things, doing some real estate and everything like that back in Virginia.
Made all his money. Now he's selling houses, buying and selling houses.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the heyday that was back in heyday when they made a lot of money.
I tell you that was the most fun during those truck days, because that was where we were going to all of the small track stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to IRP,
No competition
I-70.
fuel or competition pit stops.
Yep, yeah, that was actually the years I was in it. They were kind of they had a couple of places you still had to do the competition caution.
Okay,
and it was only a handful of them, just because there were some tracks that
couldn't support
you didn't want to be doing that on the pit stop, jumping out in front of those. At best, there was no wall. There was maybe a little guardrail about that size. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. I enjoyed that.
And so for the past 20 years, what have you done at BILSTEIN? It's probably like me, as many jobs as there's been here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I started out in BILSTEIN on the sales side of things.
Right.
It was more aftermarket, East Coast.
That's back when we had regions, right? And
Exactly.
you work in the East Coast region.
Yeah. Did that. Was the regional sales manager there for a while, and then got into the product management side of things, both on the heavy duty and motorsports, and now kind of transition to the motorsports. We've got a lot of stuff that's going on, so it was good to go ahead and make the split and have a full commitment with it. So
yeah, and product management, is needing people, right? So you filled a big gap there as we're growing that department. So
it's also you kind of skipped over COVID. So during COVID, Keith was our warehouse supervisor. He was our operations.
Now, do you live close to the office? I guess if you're the one driving in for all this.
About a half hour.
We didn't shut down.
Oh, okay.
We shut down for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We sent one guy up to the Hamilton plant and got their 36-foot trailer. It was parked at my house. I worked out of it, and then our 28-foot service trailer, Tim Godshell, who's been here for a while, he worked out of his driveway.
You're right.
So we were only closed for 2 weeks, and then we stayed closed. I mean, the state stayed shut down for quite a while, but we went back.
The show must go on when you're dealing with
motorsports.
Right?
Kept going. So we had to get back in the office.
So during COVID, racing did not stop.
Racing with fans stopped.
Okay.
So it was all streamed.
But the cars still went to the tracks, drove around the tracks.
If you guys remember, NASCAR was the first sport to actually go back.
Right.
They raced with no one in the stands.
Yeah, I remember that. That was now. How well was that accepted with the fans? I mean, it's not the same.
The time was so
the engines and
it's so crazy to think back that. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
Right.
But it doesn't even
4
seem
or 5
real.
years, maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem real.
Yeah.
But the fans immediately NBC picked up. Well, let's put them on sim rigs. Let's televise. Let's televise iRacing. Right. So all these drivers would go on and it'd be a video game.
Right.
And we'd be watching it in prime time. Right. And they got spotters and everything else. So we're watching them when they couldn't race on Sunday. They started doing it on simulators.
Right.
So we did that for a week or two, I think, because they were in Atlanta when it shut down. And during that time, motorsports couldn't take off because there's too many. The industry had too many that lived by it.
Right.
That's how they made a living. So they had to continue.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was definitely a weird time. And we had Fabi from Germany here on our last episode, and he was saying that a lot of the German racing still does happen in sim, where they're at the Nürburgring and they're on our simulators and they're literally testing a video car to figure out the race simulations and things like that. Now, did that spill over into the U.S. side of things?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
it still is.
Yeah.
You can make a living doing it.
Really?
You have sponsors.
So it's like that video game golf that I saw on TV where they go up to a blue screen or green screen and hit a golf ball and they're actually playing golf.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Similar, right?
It's got so technical that engineers and crew chiefs are now using that to upload different aero packages.
Right.
You know, because the tracks are scanned.
Right.
You know, so every bump is a real bump. Every tree is a real tree.
Right.
That you see. So not only can you experience it before you go,
they can do car setup.
you can do car setup.
Wow.
It's endless.
And that's what Bobby was saying about Nürburgring too. Is
it's the same software. That
they
use
can
in the
actually program the car for the track that day
yeah.
in the sim.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, companies out of Muskogee, Oklahoma.
That made the software?
Now, it makes actually the rigs. So
okay.
WR1.
Okay.
WR1, give them a little plug. That is who everyone has kind of gone to and used. You get the wraparound monitor, the seat, the shifters. They got drifting, the e-brake.
Right,
you can get
handbrakes.
IndyCar. You can get the IndyCar setup.
Paddles, yeah. Wow.
Pretty neat.
Crazy the inputs you can get off of it too. I mean, you can get the seat vibration,
yeah,
like that. I mean,
yeah.
depends on how much money you want to spend.
Right.
Yep.
Does it? I mean, can you feel G-forces and things like that, or no? Just
not on the WR1,
okay.
But they do have them where you
okay.
can, and they're up around $100,000.
Yeah, that would be similar to like a pilot simulator where they're
yes.
actually getting hit with G-forces and things like that.
Yes. Yeah.
That is just crazy.
Yeah. I would say some of the NASCAR teams and stuff like that probably have some of those high end ones like that.
Well, so Chevrolet does. Like the OE manufacturers
right.
is the one that have the good ones.
Accelerometers and G-force, they can feel all of that.
They can
just so crazy.
Yeah, they that's how, because during COVID I don't know if it was because of COVID, but they stopped practice. So now when like in NASCAR, you show up and your first lap on a track is your qualifying lap.
Wow.
And I mean there
car
is no
setup,
figuring it
yeah,
out,
yeah.
right? So that a lot of investment from Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota has been on that sim development.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to identify everything you would do Friday during hours of practice, you're doing it on a sim.
How come no practice?
Try to save cost.
Yeah.
Right, you're wearing
crazy.
tires and cars and engines and all that
for
kind of
the
stuff,
teams.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cost savings.
Yeah.
Hotel stays, everything like that. I mean, a lot of times with the NASCAR side of things, they would get there on Thursday and not leave till Sunday night. And that's just it's rough on the people.
Let's be honest. Anytime they try to save money, it costs more money.
Right.
So I'm sure that what that did is that drove the development of all this sim. The sim ain't cheap.
Right.
To get a day, to get an hour on the sim.
You're either paying here or you're paying there, right?
Yeah. Pratt Miller is doing all the
yeah.
Chevrolet sim, right? So Pratt Miller don't do it for free.
Right. Right.
Not anyone can go to the Chevrolet sim.
Right. Well, from the product side of things, now I don't think we've covered very much motorsport stuff here on Shock Talk, so this is the reason for having you guys here. So kind of give us an overview of the types of products, the types of race cars that are popular in your side of the company over there. I mean, I've traveled with the motorsports team for a while, but that was 20 years ago, so my knowledge is very old,
right?
Like me. But what's hot and popular in the motorsports segment today as far as the cars, tracks, and our products that work on them?
So the motorsports in the U.S. is we've got the best country for motorsports because we're so diverse. We can do road racing, we can do drag racing, we can do hill climb, we can do off-road, we got desert, we've got rally, right? We've got the terrain to do anything. In the oval track, I don't know what the current number is, but oval track is about 900 of them in the U.S. Okay, just under 900.
Little mom and pop backyard tracks and the big tracks.
Just Saturday, Friday night.
Oh, okay.
Tracks that operate.
Right.
To try to have a profit.
Right.
So obviously, there's way more dirt,
right.
than asphalt.
Right.
The asphalt kind of lost its momentum probably in the 90s, early 2000s.
Why do you think that is?
Because of technology. Mm-hmm. Like if you just look at, I ain't gonna lie. I get on my phone to get on TikTok. My attention span's 15 seconds.
Right.
If I'm not entertained in 15 seconds, I'm going to go to
Click
something
to
else.
the next thing.
So the asphalt racing is more of a gentleman.
Got it.
It's more of the old gentleman.
Right. Not as many wrecks, no dirt flying around, no parts falling off.
It's 200 laps where you go to a short track.
Boring.
It might be 20.
Yeah.
7 classes.
Yeah.
They're flipping. There's beer being drank.
Yeah.
There's just.
Well, I love dirt myself, and wing cars especially, so it keeps me interested.
Sounds like there's a lot more action on the dirt track.
Yeah,
There's a lot more action, but more importantly, there's right now the the way that the dirt industry has taken over the streaming, they found a way to be profitable, right? So now that they're streaming, the sanctioning organizations have found a way, or they haven't found a way, they've been forced to share some of that profit. So they're racing for more money than ever before, right? So you can literally go start a dirt late model team for $1.7 million, and you can turn a profit. You know, Jonathan Davenport in a few years back, he won $2 million.
Wow.
In one season, right? The T-shirt sales, you know, I don't know if I should be sharing this, but the drivers are making $1 million just in their apparel trailer.
Right.
You know, it's incredible.
We got to figure out a way to do that with BILSTEIN apparel.
Well, we got to, yes.
Yeah, and it used to be the only way that you could do that is if you were Earnhardt.
Right.
You know,
Oh, just the popularity
Earnhardt
product.
Gordon.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now, you know, it's amazing how much that popularity on that dirt track side of things is.
And you think if they're selling $1 million worth of merchandise, and we're on that spoiler of their diecast, and we're on that spoiler of every T-shirt they sell, we're gaining that exposure.
Absolutely.
With a little investment. So when you look at, when I came on in 17, BILSTEIN was, I don't know if we were focused on one industry. You know, we kind of did a little bit of everything. We had a little bit of sprint car, we had a little bit of stock car, a little bit of drag race. The first thing we did is we zeroed in on dirt late model.
Right.
Dirt late model is a sport that they're making enough money to be profitable, right? If they're good, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can still lose $1 million.
So let's take a second and just break down dirt late model. So explain to me that car, the chassis, before we get too far beyond it.
So a dirt late model is completely tube constructed.
Okay.
Rack and pinion steering, 4-bar rear suspension, really no rules.
Okay.
Okay.
On the engine or the suspension travel?
I mean, they're running 480 cubic inch, 900 horse, 14-inch width tire, 8-inch spoiler.
So this is going to be fun to watch with that.
It's fast.
Yeah,
it's very fast.
Well, it's like an unlimited class.
Yeah.
It is, but it's getting so technical where aero. So when you look at, like on the shock side, the average team, if let's say not a Saturday night guy, but you know a regional team, you know, which there's roughly 2,500 of these teams in the U.S.
Right.
Only in the U.S. You're not going to find us in any other country.
Right.
I take that back. Australia.
Right.
Yes. Now
Sydney shocks. Yep.
Yeah. Sydney. They need about 30 shocks. Okay. Well, these shocks are anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500.
So this is
retail.
a different track package. The amount of shocks they have. This is a different setup for each track.
We're not building shocks today for the best performance.
Okay.
Okay. Now, performance is always a goal, but we're building shocks today to keep aero platforms. So think about that. On a dirt track, aero is so important these days. So we're making the car do something that the car is not capable of doing because we do need so much travel in certain conditions. Right. So, you know, we got rules to how high your left rear can hike up. They measure how high your spoiler is completely jacked up. You know, because we had, you know, they call it the blade war, right? Like everyone's spoiler was getting taller than
just
you know, them standing up.
Back end of the car hooked up
just
in
hooked
the corner.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you can hook up with more downforce, you're limited on your tire. But back then we had no tire rules. You know, so you had 5-6 different tire options, and you can sipe them, groove them, cut them,
however you
buff them. You can do anything you want to manipulate how much grip you wanted.
Right.
So every year they do add a little bit more rules, but every time they add a rule, it's good for a shock company because it makes us get more creative.
Right.
When they limit how much we can hike up, well, then all of a sudden, wow, you know, Dampmatic can now be introduced.
Can hold the back of the car down.
On the right rear, we need the car to be able to hike up, but, you know, we don't want to unload the spring going down the straightaway, so now we can introduce ESCV, in-stop control valve, right? We can take some of the stuff that BILSTEIN has done for years in automotive industry, and now we can introduce it on the motorsports level to try to find a little bit of an advantage. So we chose that dirt late model path, and instead of trying to do a little bit of everything and be decent at everything, we went all in.
Just focused our energy there.
Went all in. Now, the next question is, okay, what do we do next, right?
Right. Now that you rule that class, right?
It's like, do we do sports car? Do we do wing sprint cars?
Right.
But everything needs to be looked at what can we do to benefit the aftermarket business?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do that could maybe align ourselves with an OE?
Right.
Right? Like a dirt sprint car won't align us with any OE.
Right.
Right?
You know, maybe a motor manufacturer or a chassis manufacturer, but that's not a true OE.
Right. So I think our next step, we need to really look at the whole picture. You know, I think we need to look at, okay, you know, talk with Lars and the Poway sales
Mm-hmm.
team. You know, talk to the Hamilton sales team. You know, what can we do and still be profitable, of
Right.
course, and grow BILSTEIN?
Well, you guys were at Speed Weeks, Daytona Speed Week, so what kind of feedback did we get from the racing there? Did we get any OE contacts with that?
You know, we're not going to have any OE in that. The type of racing that we're doing, we're focusing on, we're not going to generate anything
too far
there.
removed.
Right, but when you look at the average fan, right, we went to Speed Weeks, 27 different races, and I don't know if it's 35 days or I don't know what it was.
All dirt late model, or did we spread
All
out
dirt.
across?
All dirt late
Okay,
model. Now,
okay.
we had other classes at the same time,
Right.
but our service trailer, only went to dirt late model events. We won all 27. We set 26 of the 27 quick times.
Nice.
Won 81 of 109 heat races. Right, like it was unbelievable.
Domination, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we'll never do it again.
Right.
But where that potential growth could be is the average fan changes their own oil.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
DIY, yeah.
You can walk around and you can tell it. You know, they drive pickup trucks
Right.
who need BILSTEIN. You know, so I think that's going to be our next step is how do we collaborate between both sides, aftermarket motorsports to.
So how do you
to capture
transition the motorsports dominance to aftermarket sales?
Yeah, it's activation at the track.
Yeah,
is what we've really
yeah.
got to focus on. It's a couple of years ago we actually took one of the sales managers here down to Volusia and took him up into the stands and he was sitting there looking at the racetrack and he said, "Okay, now turn around and look out there into the parking lot."
Yeah.
This is the why.
Exactly.
Of why we're doing it. I mean,
how many people are sitting in those stands? Yeah, the reach that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I've
this type of
always said,
racing.
sometimes we get kind of myopic in our view of we're putting logos on the cars to sell to the guys in the pits. But if we were doing that, we would only just put it on the driver's side.
Right.
So
Right.
we're putting it on the right side, left side.
It's on the wing,
up top,
yeah.
on wherever
Yeah.
we can put it. It's amazing the following
Right.
that you can get with that when you're winning, especially.
So I have a quick question. Well, I already know the answer, but I think we need to explain it for people watching. So at these races, the cars run a wing. We already talked about that. And that's for downforce and aero, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some cars have an orange wing and some cars don't. And then our logos in certain places. So explain to me the significance of wearing that orange wing and how we seem to always be on that car.
Yeah, so the sanctioning body, to help the fans, whoever's leading the points has an orange spoiler.
Right.
So that's the reason sometimes that orange spoiler will bounce between a couple of different cars. We tend to have our logo of not a real standard BILSTEIN logo.
Okay.
Like, you can look at one might be green, one might be blue, one might be completely corporate legal.
Right.
But not all of them are sponsored.
Right.
So we've really created with the spoiler, it's the BILSTEIN logo fits this 56-inch width spoiler perfect.
Yeah.
And we get about 50 of them printed at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the amount of spoilers that have BILSTEIN on it, and we have zero affiliation with the team, is incredible.
They just like the logo. It fits, right?
It turns into a cool. It's
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
And so I don't want to lose that, but you will see a variety of BILSTEIN logos,
Right.
which always stresses out the marketing team.
Exactly. So for you, Keith and Aaron, if you could have all the money in the world and go into any segment of racing, which one would you choose? And we'll start with Keith.
That's a tough one. I mean, I kind of grew up around more of the asphalt circle track side of things there, growing up around the Martinsville Speedway.
Right.
That was one of the places I'd go to see whether it was modifieds, stuff like that right there. Grew up not far from what was, I think, kind of like an Eldora of the 80s was a place called Log Cabin Raceway in Franklin County. And it was owned by one of the modified guys, Satch Worley.
Is it called Franklin County Speedway now?
No, that's a different one.
Okay. Also in Virginia.
Yeah, that one's also Virginia. But yeah, I would go up to that. Me and my dad would go up to those both of those tracks. So I think Circle Track would probably be my to go.
Right.
My preferred one there.
If you could retire with the $90 million, and that's what you'd do is race Circle Track.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Although, I've always thought that racing, the road course stuff would be really fun.
Right.
I think just for the variety of left, right,
right.
stuff like that. Right.
More
there,
than
that
just
would
left.
be
Yeah.
really, really fun. And then as I've gotten more exposed to it here at BILSTEIN, the off-road side of things. Actually, years ago we did that sales spiff where we went down to Baja.
Wide open Baja.
Open Baja, and did 3 days of that.
Who's your co-pilot? Kurt Spalding.
Kurt Spalding out of Motor State.
Still a good customer.
Nice.
And had the
Is he still
most
picking
fun.
cactus out of his face from when he went into the cactus, or no?
Well, not. I think there was a couple of times I knocked the breath out of him when I was driving there, and I don't know whether it was knocking the breath out of him or scaring him to death.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, that was one of those things. I had fun riding with him because he had short course experience. He's done a lot. I think he still does modified racing as well. But being able to ride with somebody like that had the experience with it, I mean, I was having as much fun as anything as if I was driving him, except for when we was on the mountainside, and you had like 3 inches between
you and the cliff,
the wheel and the where it goes off, and you sit there and you saw all the little crosses on the corners and stuff like that where people had went off.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to do that.
No, this isn't my thing with the steep cliff and 100 miles an hour on off-road tires, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd say I'm open to anything.
You're
if you
torn.
Give me $1 million,
You're torn.
I'll roll with it.
How about you, Aaron? Which one would you choose?
For BILSTEIN?
Yeah. Well, for yourself.
Oh man, it's I'll
Would you
just
go back to
talk
the
to for BILSTEIN. I'm gonna answer this in for BILSTEIN. I think I like winning. I like winning in business. I like winning in life.
Well, that's
I like
good.
winning,
That's what we need.
right? So
Keep winning.
the ultimate win is F1. So
Now, how many cars are racing F1 these days?
It don't matter.
2?
No,
Do we have 2 or
they've
3?
got they've got a full field. They got 28.
Okay.
But it's F1 is stronger today probably than it's ever been because of the reality.
Right.
With Netflix, the Netflix.
Yeah.
Man, it's got to be F1. I mean, F1 is just the who's who.
Well, we did some of that back early on when Keith and I were here. We did make some parts for the F1 cars. Of course, then they were very, very simple, handmade cars. The suspension wasn't what it is today. But I kind of agree with you there. I like the speed and the ambiance of those cars. I mean, that's got to be the technical edge of racing as far as aero, horsepower. That's
incredible.
It's just,
I think any of that even IndyCar. I mean, it's such a technique.
Yeah.
And it's a true skill.
I think that's the closest thing you can get to an airplane driving around on the ground. Right. I mean, that's really the way I look at those cars these days. Is they're so technically advanced that it does not even look like a car at all.
Right.
It was. I mean, I'm back from the old AJ Foyt days where the car still kind of looked like a car. It was open wheel, but and I don't even think they wore helmets back then. I don't know. It was those cars that was old school, right?
Right.
It was a torpedo with wheels on it. Pretty crazy stuff. What about you, Shane? What would you choose? You would choose off-road racing, wouldn't you?
Of course. I don't think I would do it, but I am a fan of the WRC Rally in Europe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a little over my head. It looks very, very scary. But
You would be the navigator?
Yeah.
I don't
This
know.
way, that way, this way, that way. Yeah, that's a
Right,
scary
I mean,
deal.
left.
I
Yeah.
definitely think that I have a real appreciation for watching those races.
You know, and BILSTEIN was involved in that a lot.
Yes.
In the old days, we still got some footage of those old rally races.
Yeah.
Those guys used to whoop it up, man. That was some serious racing.
BILSTEIN was on a lot of the Group B cars that were tube chassis, and they'd have like 3 shocks per wheel, 3 yellow sticks. That's
Yep.
our old boss used to call it.
Yeah.
And some coilovers.
SGs.
And
Now, has it
Anyways.
lost popularity? Because I remember back
I don't think so.
when I was in high school, man, we used to watch it on TV. It used to be
Well, that was
televised.
Travis Pastrana and all the guys from motocross getting into rally cars at that
That
point.
would have been, that'd been before.
Before that.
Okay,
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah, it's even, well, they made them so they're production vehicles. So they're unibody, but they have like some really trick like shock packages, and they're really, really fast. They're probably faster than like what Group B's were.
And I just can't believe how crazy they are. I mean, 4-wheel drift into a 90-degree corner is just crazy. Those
120 on
yeah,
gravel.
yeah. And the co-driver's like, "Oh, you're under speed here. You need to be at 150, not 120." You know, you're like, this guy's just hauling the mail into those corners. And
Yeah, BILSTEIN was heavily involved in that back in the day. I have like this rally book of history, and it's like a BILSTEIN catalog almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like every car's got a BILSTEIN sticker, but like in the 70s, 80s. But
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I'd say that the old bus probably had some
autographs,
some autographs, and some decals. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
The
but
BILSTEIN bus?
the BILSTEIN
Yeah,
bus
yeah,
that
yeah.
got pulled out of the weeds.
Yeah.
It was a. That was a really cool deal. I hate that it got shipped off to Germany. I wanted to get
and
that.
restored,
Yeah.
I believe.
I think that was the plan anyway. I don't know if it ever got
Yeah.
restored, but I mean, it was in rough shape, and we pulled that out of the weeds up in Welcome, North Carolina. Chocolate Myers actually had it.
The original Motorsports bus that BILSTEIN brought to tour the United
Yeah.
States with.
And it had toured out in out in Europe. Had a bunch of different decals and stuff like that, all in there, all in the wood paneling on the inside. So it was
Nice.
total.
You guys
70s,
will like
80s.
this. I was just at Off-Road Expo SoCal in Costa Mesa, and a gentleman walked up to me at the table, and he said, "Hey, how long have you been at the company?" And I said, "A while." And he goes, "You remember that old blue race truck that you guys used to bring to all the race courses? You know, it had the sleeper on the back, and, you know, it was a Peterbilt, I believe, and towed our trailer." He goes, "I built that."
No kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So apparently he still remembered Udo and all the guys during the day where they had commissioned that build, and he built that truck, and he had a picture of it that he still carried around with him, Old Blue. And I'm like, yeah, we used to call that Old Blue. I spent 6 months in that thing driving around all the racetracks for days and days and days.
Yeah, that went through some transformations too.
Yeah,
It went from
yeah.
an 18-wheeler to
Like a top kick
to a
style.
top kick type of deal there, and that's seen some years there.
Now, do you guys know what happened to it? He asked me that, and I didn't
It's
know.
in,
Is it up north? I think.
yeah, no, it's
So we sold it off.
in Germany.
Oh, we kept it.
Is that the one we shipped back to Germany?
No.
Oh, we're talking
No,
about a different one.
Yeah, this is the one that we
We would have used early 2000s.
Yeah, we actually used it up until the time we got the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a funny story about that. One year at SEMA, for some reason, there was dropped Peterbilts. Like, as part of SEMA. There was a whole area of, like, dropped Peterbilts of kind of that vintage.
Right.
And I was like, and I went to call the Motorsports manager at the time. I'm like, I got a new direction for this
This truck.
truck.
Let's
And I had
make it a SEMA
pictures.
display. Yeah.
I had pictures of all these bitchin' like dropped like, you know, Peterbilts and Kenworths and stuff from the 80s. And he had like just sold it.
Oh.
I'm like, this would have been the coolest like
Yeah.
thing to bring to SEMA.
Yeah. So I have a question that I wanted to ask you both while you're here. So we do your style of motorsports through North Carolina, and we do the off-road motorsports here in San Diego. And I mean, we have to try to make unity out of it somehow.
Right.
So how do you guys draw comparisons between dirt track, your style of dirt track, and dirt track off-road style of dirt track? Is there
Yeah, that's a
anything
great
that
question.
makes them like there's got to be something that's parallel between the two.
I mean, it's all the same type of personality.
Right.
You know,
win. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, we've got where we're at in North Carolina, they call it Race City, USA.
Mm-hmm.
They call it Race City, USA because every major manufacturer has a plant there. Maybe not a plant, but at least a sales office.
Right.
All the safety, all the fuel cell companies.
Right. They used to call it NASCAR USA.
Well, Ryan Beat he moved from California over there.
Oh, nice.
And so Ryan Beat is in our town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are exposed to a lot of that short course off-road. So on the West Coast or East Coast, when you think of off-road, it's probably 50-50 if they think desert, if they think short course.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And to the average person, off-road is off-road, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
But it's so different. So different.
Well, the way I look at a short course race truck is it's basically a dirt track car with a little more suspension.
With a lot more suspension.
Yeah, it's just
a lot more.
Yeah, it's just the same thing. I mean, it's the same style. They pitch it sideways in the corner.
They go to dirt tracks and test.
Yeah,
right, like short track.
Yeah,
dirt tracks and test.
They're kind of constructed similar. They sound like a circle track car.
Yeah,
right.
But then they jump.
Yeah.
One of the similarities, and I think you touched on it earlier on a question, was whether there were shocks for different racetracks.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I think you really get with it, especially short course and dirt track, that racetrack changes from lap to lap or from a heat to a main.
Right.
It can be a night-day difference in the track from one day to the next.
Right.
So you're constantly, whether it's the driver or whether it's the team, you're making constant adjustments on that. So that's something that really.
Well, we have the same thing in off-road racing. So at King of the Hammers, the early start guys get a fairly clean, untorn up racetrack, and the guys at the end of the pack get 6 foot deep grooves where the big fast cars have gone through and sucked all the dirt out, and you're basically. You're mowing off the top of a center rut the whole way to get where you're going. So same in off-road racing where the track deteriorates, more vehicles go over it. But the difference is we can't pull into a pit and change the vehicle to manipulate that. The terrain is just beyond fixing the car to work in that type of terrain.
Yeah, we're constantly working to be better. I mean, as we speak, Nathan's and the team's out testing now with Caden Wells.
Yeah.
I think we tested last week with Caden Wells and some others.
So there's really a lot of similarities that just get kind of overlooked. I mean, we've already said that short course race trucks are very similar to dirt track cars, just add more travel, just with jumps basically, And we just got that question. So how do you set up a car to turn left?
Turn left or turn right?
Turn left or right, whichever. I mean, what is it that you adjust so a car's only making that one turn?
The biggest thing is left side weight.
Right.
So the more left side weight, the better it turns left. So when you have to turn left and right, you need to make sure it's balanced.
Balanced, right.
But that's the biggest thing.
So what do you do to a race car as far as moving weight around? Like, what do you move over there? Fuel cell?
Well, so
we driver?
We use the shocks to help manipulate it, right? So on the right front, everything in circle track is it's not newtons, right? So we're talking about pounds,
right?
But we'll have about 800 pounds 0 point in a shock.
Okay.
So when that thing does transfer to the right front, you can step on that right front and it stays down. Where on the left front, it's not.
Right.
So we're using the shocks to help manipulate the car, the weight transfer where we need to get it to be.
Right. So I mean,
on an off-road truck, you want it equal.
Yeah, because it goes
everything
everywhere.
Needs to be. If your left front has 400 pounds 0 point, it never would, but your right front better equal the same.
And same with weight bias axle to axle. So you basically want everything centered around the center of the car with an off-road car.
Yes.
So back to your point about we can actually use shocks to transfer weight. Mm-hmm. That's what you do with dirt track cars. I don't think most people understand that when you make a shock, so it is basically a pull down shock or a let up shock or whatever you want to call it, it can actually set the car stance and hold it around the corner until the car flattens out and then goes into the straight. I mean, to me, that's an unbelievable way to use shock absorbers.
So we now know where the platform needs to be for maximum speed, right? So once we know where the platform needs to be, and we'll do that with a lot of data acquisition, a lot of data testing. So we'll figure out where we need to be, where we're not in the earth, we're not bottoming out, but we are kissing the earth,
right?
Right. That's the best platform.
What do you mean by kissing the earth?
Just the chassis or whatever your
Just
lowest
the bottom,
point.
the bottom
is
of the car.
just kissing the
in.
earth, right? Because we don't want to dig in, but we want the
So it's
nose
literally
sealed off.
So you're getting that
off the
close.
ground. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we want to live there, so that we don't want to come up, because if you come up, you're allowing air underneath.
Underneath,
the
right, which ruins your aero.
Yeah. So aero is because it's free.
Right.
At the end
It's
of the day,
free
air
speed.
is
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
So if we can maximize what air gives us, then we're always going to be faster.
Right. Wow, that's something that I think a lot of off-road folks are still learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you look at the short course stuff, when I go over to Ryan Beats, they're way excelled on like trying to for cooling, for example.
Right.
Some of his cooling boxes is unbelievable.
Right.
Right. I see it. I'm like, holy cow! Why haven't we done that? Right. But there's other aspects. It's like, man, you could be better.
Right.
Just
you could save some. You could save some drag here, right?
I mean, we're the good dirt late model teams have scanned their bodies, and they can simulate wind tunnel testing. We have wind tunnels in Mooresville, so we've been a part of that, right? So being able to see what aero is doing with a small change, and I mean 1 inch spoiler is 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is downforce on the wheels, which is traction, which is speed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you can go through and it's the same thing, if you can go through the desert at certain parts of that course, and if you had a 500-pound girlfriend sitting on the back axle, you're probably going to have less wheel spin, right? So it's how can we do that with shocks?
Yeah.
Right?
On an off-road truck, we figured it out on dirt track.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
We'll never have it figured out. We're always going to, because
so the off-road guy with a lighter girlfriend, he's at a disadvantage, or
just have a single seat.
Yeah, okay.
And then it solves all the
Yeah,
problems.
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that. So it seems like with dirt late model, they're always throwing in different rules here and there, and you have to adapt. And I've overheard like you guys talking about different things that you've tried, like with the shock packages and the different things that you offer. Like, what are some of like the latest things that you've done to try to like really like maximize the speed and performance?
Well, BILSTEIN has enough technology that we've done the last 20 years to take us to the next 20 years in motorsports. I love the movie Ford vs. Ferrari. I mean, what a great movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but Martin Flick is in the beginning of that.
Yeah, and that's he's current motorsports director.
He's my boss.
Yeah.
Right. So
I have a story after you're done about Martin. But
boy, can we say it on the podcast?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's a good story.
So back then, OE needed motorsports to drive OE. Right. Where today OE is past motorsports.
Right.
In all aspects.
Right.
Right. Like, so we are now looking at OE technology, and we're behind. It's like, holy crap. You guys are doing this for a motorhome?
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I think, where do we go from here is AI is taking over, right? I think we need to invest in how can we use AI to get to where we want to be faster. If it's shim stacks, rebound curves, compression curves. If we can build an AI to, when we increase our cover shim to, I don't want to talk too technical, but when we increase compression at this speed, what's a driver feedback?
Right.
What's the performance feedback? Right. So then when we're at a racetrack and we're slinging oil, slinging shims, and we're trying to give a customer a feel he's missing. Right. Sometimes he's missing that feel because something non-shock related is causing it. Right. But at the end of the day, that's our job. Right. So I think the future is going to be going that direction, but also integrating some of our OE technology. And it's not going to be legal in a lot of aspects. It'd be fun for them to find it. Right. And create some more rules. I love
Right.
creating rules.
Exactly.
So
well, rules are for breaking.
Right. So I think that's going to be our next venture here. But it also piston design. We're constantly making new pistons. Kevin Rumley, who's an engineer with our team, he just sent one over this morning that he's designed. It's made out of steel. It's super thin, right? So why do you want a steel piston when you can run aluminum? I don't know. But looking at data, there must be a reason.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned AI because I was having this discussion with my wife on the way to work this morning, and we're older and we're like, oh, this AI thing, it's a bunch of junk, and the point I made is like, okay, AI is not going to change the oil in my car. It won't change the brakes. There's still going to have to be a person to do that. But I like what you said about using AI to give us hints at what direction that person needs to take the tuning, right? And, we all use it here at work, and it's great at giving you a hint or, prompting you in the right direction. And I think that's a great way to use it. But it's still going to take a person, and someone's butt in the seat to tune that car. I don't think it's ever going to replace that.
I think it will.
You think it will?
I think it will. You can ask A right now. I would love for you to ask. If I had my phone, I'd do it. Ask ChatGPT. Tell them you have a Longhorn Dirt Late model. You're at Volusia.
And it has this much data.
And you're tight on entry. Yeah. What should I?
Really?
Can I use it?
Oh, I don't have it hooked. It doesn't
I don't
have
my phone on me.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
It's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Wow. That's
it's not wrong. It gave me a list of things I could do to my shock.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong.
Wow.
So you're constantly coming up with a lot of intricate internal items to try to bridge that gap and go faster.
We've got a separator. We've got a separator piston I can't talk about, but it is mind-blowing. Like, you can take something so simple that's separating the oil and the nitrogen.
Right.
And you can, something that we've had forever. I mean, I think BILSTEIN invented it.
Right.
But you can maximize that part to add grip.
Yeah.
And then it's going to work in off-road. It's going to work in desert. It's going to work.
Nice.
It's going to work on the highway.
Nice.
It just adds grip.
Wow.
But we've got a box that we can work in, and if we can create grip with our shock, there's no market we can't go after.
Right.
Right. So we're at that point now. We've got to make a decision. Do we go hardcore?
Yeah. What direction do we go?
Right. Because we're good where we're at. The desert. How do we get better?
Right.
Why aren't we number one?
Right.
Right. We go to the Mint 400. We finished first and third.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yep.
Like, how do we get that? How do we tell everyone?
Yep.
Right. And I think using what's so cool is having the Mooresville team and the Poway team, we can work at the same goal, but we can go two different ways.
Yep.
And we're going to be learning.
Two different ways of thinking, I think that you guys are trained to think a certain way for the car side of things, and we're thinking a certain way for the truck and off-road side of things. But those two sides get together and collaborate, and just like we've done here, we solve the whole world's problem in a podcast. I mean, we've got it all taken care of.
Just ask AI.
Just ask AI.
Just ask AI.
Yeah. And one of the big things I think we've benefited from a lot over the last, I'll say, 10 years, something like that, is the world's gotten smaller for us on the motorsports side. That we're in a lot more collaboration with Martin and the guys over in Germany. Right. And we're working to make sure that here, we're the off-road side is able to learn from things on the motorsports circle track side of things.
Right.
So, and we don't have to all be doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
But we can pick and choose which things that can make this one better, and the thing of it is, we might try something on the circle track side, and it's okay. It didn't really make.
But it's a groundbreaker in Nürburgring.
It might be huge. I mean, like the throwing a damp matic in a 7100.
Yep.
We did that.
We've done that. Yeah.
Well, I'll share my story about Martin. So Martin probably doesn't remember, but I visited Germany and the Nürburgring, and he took me for a ride around the track. And I shared on the last podcast with Fabi that was one of the only times I've ever been scared in a race car. So I don't know if Martin's been able to get out this way, and I would like to put him in the car with one of these guys that's on the wall there and see if we can scare him in the off-road side of things. But I don't know that
he comes out every year.
Yeah, financially, or if he's already done it and never been scared. But that's my story, anyways. It's nothing bad. It's just, yeah, the guy is real late on the brake pedal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you know that's probably the coolest thing about BILSTEIN that no one ever realized, and sometimes we all forget, is how big our engineering team is.
Oh yeah, globally.
That's what I mean. Globally,
Yeah.
we have access to all of it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Technology from all around the world.
You always like find a little tidbit here and there.
Something that
You
yeah,
know?
like Keith was just saying, something that they made and it was a poof and didn't work, and we put this in our shock, off-road shock, and it works.
our competitor would love to go look through our trash.
Yeah.
In our
exactly.
cabinet of old stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
Because you have over 20 here, right? Engineers.
Yes.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
quite
so we
a
have
team
2
here.
in Mooresville, and
Yeah.
we've got over 100 in Hamilton.
Yep.
The entire motorsports team is all engineers in Germany.
And then there's basically Europe, which is Germany, UK. There's engineering teams at a lot of our BTCs over there in
Mexico,
Europe.
we have
yeah.
some.
Yeah, so
it's incredible.
all that technology plays together, and like you said, Motorsports is lucky. We can just pick and choose what we want because it doesn't have to go through aftermarket OE testing, right?
Well,
And we
that's
can-
another good point. Is
Yeah.
Martin has this unbelievable pump around damper, 7-way adjustable.
Right.
I mean, this thing is badass.
Yeah.
It failed the million mile cycle.
Oh no. Okay.
Million mile cycle. I think the rod guide might have leaked a little bit.
Right.
I'm like, man, we don't need but 5 miles.
Exactly.
Like, ship it.
Yeah.
We're
How
good.
long's the King of the Hammers race course?
We are good.
You don't
Like,
need
I
a
don't-
million miles.
Yeah, we're gonna see.
100 good laps.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will rebuild it every 100 laps. Just to get it to me.
Exactly.
So I have a question on the short course side of things. So I mean, grip, and you guys have that down. But I don't know in off road if they really think about things like that, off road short course. So do you see some opportunities to maybe make some improvements there? And BILSTEIN has a great presence and like the Crandon tracks and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of good competitors, but
We
we have anything on the horizon with that that's different?
We've got to go test with Ryan Beat, and Ryan Beat just because he's in our backyard. But he goes to a local short little dirt track, and he'll go up there and he'll run 18.7 second laps going left. Well, then what's badass is he'll spin out, and you think, oh crap, he just spun out.
He's going to go the other direction.
He's going the other direction, ripping the fence,
Yeah.
running 18.7 second
Yeah.
laps. It's like this guy's within a tenth going right and left.
Yep.
And we need to focus on that because I think the West Coast operation has the jumping figured out, the landing figured out. But we can help through the corner.
Right.
Without a doubt, we
Right.
can help through the corner.
Right. Keep
And
the grip. Yeah.
we have not done that yet.
Yep.
And we've got
especially on the short course style trucks where grip is going to be, how they cut the tires, what air pressure they're running, all that type of stuff, and grip from the dampers, the shock side of things is going to, like Shane said, is really going to become an issue as they all get faster and faster. Like you said, all off-road trucks got the jump and the landing figured out. All the different manufacturers, I think, have all figured that part out. That's the part everybody wants to see, but now we got to make up microseconds in the corners and still win races. I think that's where it's at. The next level of off-road is going to be finding those little details where you can pick up speed and stay faster than the competitors.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, the most grip is no shock.
Yeah, totally loose.
Yeah, so think about that.
Yeah,
So how can we, where he needs grip, how can we kill it?
and still land a
Yeah,
7,
but
8
you
foot
have
jump.
you have grip, you have dampening when you need dampening, but
Yeah.
you don't have any dampening when you
Yeah.
don't need dampening.
Yeah, that's just crazy
Some of the
stuff.
best performing cars is when a shock comes off
Yeah,
and you don't know it. You're
Yeah.
like, holy smokes! What do? You come in and you put it back on. You're like,
yeah. We just killed our times. We just killed our ETs.
So basically, that'd be like a mega bleed on a.
tons of bleed.
I'll just take the
Bleed is
shocks
great.
off and drive it that way. See what happens. See if the sanctioning body will let you run.
See if we can get Dennis to take one off of one of those projects in the back there.
Yeah.
Just go around Poway and no shock. See what it feels like.
Well,
it doesn't work good in a regular truck.
exactly. No, not a street truck. Not for sure. Not. Well, I'm starting to feel like tacos. You guys getting hungry?
Where are we eating today?
Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere that has tacos though. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Taco me up. I'm good.
Well, we're going to go find some lunch. Thanks for joining us here on Shock Talk. So Keith and Aaron, thank you for getting on an airplane, flying over here, and spending some time with us on Shock Talk. Very interesting talking to you. And for the folks watching the show, this is new, kind of new for us to have these guys with us, but we hope that you enjoyed it. And please leave us your comments or any questions that you have for the guys in Mooresville. And we'll see you next time on Shock Talk.
I just realized we have no hair.
Keith is the only one.
I'm the odd man out.
Yeah.